My name is Lena Harper and I'm 28 years old. 5 years ago, 3 days before Thanksgiving, my mother delivered 7 words that quietly dismantled the idea of family I'd carried my whole life. Don't come home. Ethan doesn't want the tension. No softening. Just the line went dead. I was standing in my cramped one-bedroom in Seattle, surrounded by damp laundry and the faint smell of the cedar candle I'd bought to trick myself into feeling festive. I'd already printed my boarding pass for the flight to Portland. Non-refundable, naturally. The call came at 4:17 p.m. Mom's name lit up the screen. I answered on the second ring, voice bright. "Hey, Mom, I landed—" "Lena," her tone was surgical. "I need to say this quickly. Don't come home this year. Ethan's fiancée is pregnant. High risk. She can't handle any disruption. Disruption. That was the word she chose for me." I actually laughed once. Short, disbelieving before the room tilted. "Disruption? Mom, I haven't seen Ethan or spoken to him in almost a year. What disruption?" "You know how you are," she said, already tired of the conversation. "You ask questions. You bring up old things. It stresses her out. She's carrying our first grandchild since, well, since the miscarriage Ethan's wife had 2 years earlier. The one they never told me about until months later. The one I only learned because I saw the hospital bracelet photo on his wife's private Instagram story. Mom, I bought the ticket months ago. I was coming to see all of you. Then lose the money. Or don't, but don't show up." A pause. Ethan asked us to keep the house peaceful. The line clicked off before I could respond. I stood there holding the phone like it might apologize. Snow had started sticking to the window ledges outside. I was 28, gainfully employed, paying my own rent, and still being told I was too much trouble to feed turkey to. This wasn't new. It was just finally loud. Flashback reel. My 21st birthday. I'd saved for months to rent a small rooftop venue downtown. 10 friends, string lights, a playlist I'd spent weeks curating. The morning of, Ethan called Mom in tears. He'd totaled his car the night before. Drunk. Though no one said that part out loud. Mom canceled my party to drive 3 hours and sit with him at the impound lot. "Don't make this about you, Lena. Your brother could have died." We rescheduled for the following weekend. It never happened. My master's thesis defense. First in the family to reach graduate level. I sent them the Zoom link 6 weeks in advance. They didn't log on. Later, Mom explained Ethan had a big work presentation that same morning and needed moral support via phone. They stayed home to be available if he called. "Your degree is wonderful, honey, but family comes first." Family apparently meant whoever cried loudest that day. I'd spent years shrinking, agreeing, smiling through exclusions, telling myself if I just stayed small enough, quiet enough, useful enough, the love would finally arrive. At 28, holding a useless boarding pass, I understood there was no small enough. I tried Dad next. One last hope. He picked up on the 5th ring. Football commentary murmured behind him. "Hey, Peanut." "Dad, did Mom tell you?" Long exhale. "Yeah, she did." "And you're fine with me not coming?" Another breath. "It's not about being fine. It's about keeping things calm. Ethan's fiancée is fragile right now, so I'm the thing that breaks her?" "Lena, do you want me there, Dad?" "Just say it." One time, 10 seconds of silence. I counted them. "I think you should respect what your mom's asking this year." I hung up before he could add the usual placating, "I love you." He didn't call back. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and silver gray. My apartment smelled like burnt coffee because I'd forgotten the pot. No texts from family. No happy Thanksgiving, nothing. I scrolled Instagram around 1 p.m. Ethan had posted, "Golden table. Mom beaming, Dad carving. Ethan's fiancée cradling her bump. Their toddler in a pilgrim hat. Caption, blessed beyond measure. Grateful for the ones who show up. 5 place settings. No extra chair. No ghost spot for me. They hadn't just left me out. They'd edited me out of the picture entirely. I almost crawled back into bed with takeout and self-pity. Then something snapped. Not dramatic, not loud, just final. If I wasn't welcome at their table, I'd find one that didn't require an invitation. I put on the only nice sweater I owned. a deep green wool thing I'd bought on clearance, and walked 6 blocks through spitting rain to the Anchor Room, a historic waterfront spot known for staying open on holidays. Dark paneling, candlelight, the smell of sage and roasting meat. The hostess gave me the solo diner once over. Just you? Just me. She seated me at a small high top near the window. Next to me, a long table of 8, 3 generations. Laughing, passing rolls, clinking glasses. Grandparents, parents, adult kids. A couple of teenagers filming TikToks. Warm, loud, belonging. I ordered the full Thanksgiving plate anyway. Turkey, stuffing, cranberry, the works. When it arrived, I stared at it for a long minute, throat tight. That's when the woman at the big table, maybe mid-50s, silver streaks in her hair, leaned over. First Thanksgiving alone? I blinked. That obvious? She smiled gently. Only because you look like you're deciding whether to eat or cry into the gravy. A small laugh escaped me. Both, probably. She glanced at her family, then back. I'm Marisol. That's my husband Javier pretending he knows how to carve. Those are our kids, their partners, the grandkids. We always make room for one more. Come sit with us. Seriously, no one eats alone on Thanksgiving in this group. I hesitated. Marisol just patted the empty chair beside her daughter. Come on, the mashed potatoes are getting cold. I moved, just like that. They folded me in without questions. Passed me the gravy boat, asked my name, told me stories, laughed at my terrible attempt to explain Seattle weather to someone from Arizona. By the time dessert came, 3 kinds of pie, I wasn't crying anymore. I didn't know it then, but that rainy Thanksgiving table would become the center of my next 5 years. 5 years later, when I walked down the aisle, Marisol and Javier stood in the front row on the bride's side, officially introduced as the parents of the bride. My biological parents were there too. Uninvited. Standing at the back, watching strangers hold the title they'd thrown away. They'd been replaced. Not with anger, with people who chose to show up. I sat down between Marisol's daughter-in-law, Carla, and the youngest granddaughter, Sophia, who was maybe 7 and already wearing a paper pilgrim hat she'd made from a napkin. The chair creaked under me like it was welcoming an old friend. Someone, Carla, I think, slid an extra plate my way before I even asked. Here, honey. We ordered family style anyway. There's enough turkey to feed half the waterfront. I nodded, throat too tight for words. Javier, Marisol's husband, leaned over with the carving knife still in hand. White or dark meat or both? We don't judge portion control here. Both, I managed. Please. He grinned like I'd passed a test. Good answer. The conversation flowed around me like warm water. No one grilled me about why I was alone. No one pitied me out loud. They just included me. Sophia showed me how to build a tiny fort out of dinner rolls. Carla asked about my favorite, Seattle coffee spot. I said the tiny one on Capitol Hill with the lavender lattes. Javier told a story about the time he tried to deep fry a turkey in their backyard and almost set the garage on fire. Everyone groaned in unison, then laughed. Marcus, the one around my age, with the easy smile and the dark hair, was quieter at first. He watched more than he spoke, but when he did talk, it landed gentle. So, Lena, he said after the plates were mostly cleared, what's the one dish you always look forward to on Thanksgiving? Even if it's not happening today. I thought about it. My mom's stuffing, the one with sausage and apples, but I haven't had it in years. Not the way she used to make it anyway. He nodded slowly. Traditions change, sometimes for the better. Marisol caught my eye across the table. She didn't say anything, just gave a small, knowing smile. After pie, pumpkin, pecan, and apple, all homemade by Carla, things slowed. The kids were getting sleepy. The rain had picked up outside, drumming on the windows like applause. I started to gather my things, suddenly aware I'd overstayed what a polite stranger should. I should probably head out, I said. Thank you again. This was more than I expected. Marisol stood up before I could finish. Wait right there. She disappeared toward the coat check and came back with a small paper bag, leftover pie, and this. She pressed a business card into my palm. Simple white stock, black lettering, Marisol Reyes. LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist, retired. A phone number, an address in Ballard. If you ever want to talk, she said. About family, about anything. Doors open. Literally, I host Sunday brunches most weeks. Nothing fancy. Just food and people who show up. I stared at the card. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything yet. Just know the invitation stands. Javier clapped me on the shoulder. And if you need a ride home tonight, Marcus has the car. He's headed that way anyway. Marcus appeared beside us, keys already in hand. No pressure. But it's pouring, and I'm not letting you walk 6 blocks in this. I hesitated only a second. Okay, thank you. The ride back to my apartment was quiet at first. Rain streaking the windows, streetlights blurring. Then Marcus spoke. You don't have to explain anything. But if you want to, I'm listening. I looked at him, really looked. No agenda in his eyes, just patience. So I told him. Not everything, but enough. The call from my mom, the Instagram photo with no empty chair, the way my dad chose quiet over me, the years of shrinking. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he just said, that sounds exhausting. Carrying all that alone, it is. You don't have to keep carrying it. We pulled up to my building. He didn't push for more, just handed me his phone. Put your number in. If you ever want pie or coffee, or just someone to sit with in silence, text. No strings. I typed it in. Handed it back. Happy Thanksgiving, Lena. You too, Marcus. I watched his taillights disappear into the rain, then climbed the stairs to my apartment. For the first time in years, the silence inside didn't feel heavy. It felt temporary. Over the next weeks, the texts started small. Marcus. Leftover stuffing in the fridge. Still thinking about that lavender latte spot. Recommendations? Eat the one on 12th. Get the oat milk. Trust me. Marisol. Sunday brunch this weekend? 11 a.m. Bring nothing but yourself. I went. The house in Ballard smelled like cinnamon and fresh coffee. Javier was flipping pancakes. Carla was setting the table. Sophia ran up and hugged my legs like I'd always been there. No one asked why I came alone. They just handed me a mug and a plate. That first brunch turned into every other Sunday. Then every Sunday. Marcus started picking me up so I didn't have to bus. We talked about work. He's a civil engineer. About bad dates we'd both had. About the way families can wound without meaning to. Months passed. I stopped checking my birth family's social media. The ache didn't vanish, but it dulled, replaced by something new. People who asked how I was and actually waited for the answer. One evening, about 8 months later, Marisol pulled me aside in her kitchen while everyone else was in the living room watching a Mariners game. I've been thinking, she said, about what you told me that first night. About being told you're drama for wanting basic respect. I nodded. I've seen it too many times in my practice. The scapegoat role. It's not you. It's the system protecting itself. Tears pricked my eyes. I know that now. Because of you guys. She squeezed my hand. You're not alone anymore, mija. Not if you don't want to be. I hugged her, hard. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was borrowing someone else's family. It felt like I'd been given one. And that was only the beginning. 5 years later, when the wedding invitations went out, the envelope for Marisol and Javier read, "Please join us as parents of the bride." They cried when they opened it. My biological parents? They showed up anyway, stood in the back, watched. But by then it didn't hurt the same way. Because I'd built a table of my own, one with room for everyone who chose to sit at it. The texts from my old life had stopped completely after that first Thanksgiving. No birthday messages. No Christmas we miss you guilt notes. Nothing. I told myself it was peaceful. Mostly it was. But peace has a way of getting tested. 2 years and change after that rainy November dinner, Marcus and I weren't just texting about coffee anymore. We were finishing each other's sentences, staying up until dawn, talking about the future we both wanted. Quiet. Steady, full of people who chose us back. One Saturday in late. April, he took me back to the anchor room. Same high-top table by the window. Same view of the gray water. He was fidgeting with the edge of the menu the way he only does when he's nervous. "Lena," he started, then stopped. Cleared his throat. "Remember the first night here? When Mom basically kidnapped you from your solo table? I laughed. How could I forget? I was crying into mashed potatoes. You were beautiful even then. Even crying. He reached into his jacket pocket. I've been carrying this around for weeks, trying to find the right moment. Turns out the right moment is just now. He opened the small black box. Simple rose gold band, a single emerald in the center, the same green as the sweater. I'd worn that first Thanksgiving. Lena Harper, he said, voice low and sure. You already know I choose you every day. I want to choose you in front of everyone we love. I want to build a life where you never have to wonder if you belong. Will you marry me? The restaurant noise faded. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Yes, I said. Then louder, because it felt important. Yes. He slid the ring on. People around us started clapping. Some who'd clearly been watching. Some who just caught the energy. In the far corner booth, Marisol and Javier raised their water glasses like they'd rehearsed it. Sophia ran over and threw her arms around my legs, yelling, "Aunt Lena's getting married!" I looked at Marcus through blurry eyes. You told them. Couldn't help it, he said, grinning. They've been rooting for this longer than we have. Wedding planning started the next morning over brunch at their house. Carla pulled out 3 different Pinterest boards she'd secretly made. Javier insisted on handling the grill for the rehearsal dinner. Sophia drew pictures of me in a dress that looked suspiciously like a superhero cape. But one detail kept circling in my head like a song. I couldn't shake the wedding program. The line that would read, "Parents of the bride." I couldn't write Robert and Diane Harper. They hadn't spoken to me since before the engagement. Hadn't asked how I was. Hadn't even acknowledged the ring when a distant cousin posted a photo and tagged them. They'd gone radio silent the moment I stopped chasing their approval. I couldn't give them that title. Not on paper. Not in front of the people who had actually shown up. One evening I was sitting on the back deck with Marisol while the others were inside arguing over fantasy football. The string lights were on. Moths bumped against them. I finally said it out loud. I don't know what to put for parents of the bride. She didn't flinch. Just sipped her chamomile and waited. I can't put my biological parents. They don't get to claim that anymore. But I also don't want it to look empty, like I came from nowhere. Marisol set her mug down. You didn't come from nowhere. You came from pain, and then you came to us. I swallowed. You said something once, about the law recognizing families we build. She nodded slowly. Adult adoption. It's not common, but it's legal in Washington. Consenting adults. Full legal parent-child relationship. New birth certificate. You'd be next of kin, heirs, all of it. My chest felt tight, in a good way, like something was finally expanding instead of shrinking. Have you and Javier ever thought about it? With me? She turned to face me fully. Her eyes were shining. Mija, we started thinking about it the second Sunday you came to brunch, and Sophia asked if you could sleep over. We were waiting for you to feel safe enough to want it. Tears came fast. I didn't try to stop them. The process wasn't quick. Lawyers, home visits, a court hearing, where the judge asked me in front of Marisol and Javier why I wanted this. I told him the truth. Because they chose me when no one else would. Because they've been my parents in every way that matters for years. I just want the paper to match the heart. The judge signed the order on a Tuesday in October. I walked out of the courthouse Lena Reyes. New birth certificate, new last name, new legal parents. Marisol cried harder than I did. Javier hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. Sophia immediately started calling me her other mom, until Carla gently corrected her to Aunt Lena, who's also our daughter now. We sent the invitations 3 months before the June wedding. Parents of the bride, Marisol and Javier Reyes. My phone stayed quiet for about 2 weeks. Then the storm hit. First a text from my sister, first contact in almost 3 years. Is it true you're getting married in June? And you put strangers' names on the invitation instead of mom and dad? What the hell, Lena? I blocked her. Then my mother called. 6 times in one afternoon. I let them ring. Voicemails piled up. I listened to the last one on speaker while Marcus rubbed circles on my back. Lena, this is ridiculous. We're your parents. We raised you. You can't just replace us with some random family you met at a restaurant. Call me back. We need to talk, now. I deleted every message. Then I blocked her number too. Marcus kissed my temple. You don't owe them an explanation. I know, I whispered, but it still stings. It's allowed to sting. Doesn't mean you have to open the door again. The wedding day arrived bright and warm. The venue was a small waterfront garden in Ballard, flowers everywhere. String lights, a long table set for dinner under the open sky. Sophia scattered petals down the aisle. Carla did my makeup. Javier walked me down the aisle because I asked him to. Marisol stood at the front with happy tears already streaming. When the officiant said, "Who gives this woman to be married?" Javier answered loud and proud, "Her mother and I do." My biological parents were there, uninvited. Standing at the very back near the gate, arms crossed, faces unreadable. I saw them for maybe 3 seconds before I turned my eyes to Marcus waiting at the altar, to Marisol beaming beside him, to the people filling the chairs who had chosen me every single Sunday for years. I walked toward them, not away from the past, toward the family I'd built, one brave yes at a time. The applause for Marisol and Javier still echoed off the stone barn walls when I felt the shift in the air. Diane was moving, fast, pushing past tables, weaving between guests who were still clapping and raising glasses. Robert followed a step behind, head down, shoulders hunched like he was trying to make himself smaller than he already felt. Marcus squeezed my hand once, silent question. I gave the tiniest nod. I wasn't running from this anymore. Diane stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could see the tremor in her lower lip, the way her mascara had started to run at the corners. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not in height, in everything else. "What is this?" Her voice cracked on the last word. "Adopted? You had yourself adopted?" The nearest tables had gone quiet. A few heads turned. Not dramatically, just the natural curiosity of people sensing tension at a wedding. I kept my voice low even. "Yes, 2 years ago. Marisol and Javier are my legal parents now. On paper, in court, in every way that matters." Diane's eyes darted to the head table where Marisol was laughing at something. Sophia had whispered. Javier's arm around her shoulders. Then back to me. "You can't do that," she whispered. "We're your real parents." "You were," I said, "until you decided I wasn't worth the effort." Robert finally spoke. His voice was rough, almost pleading. "Lena, we didn't know it was this bad. We thought you'd come around, call, something." I looked at him, really looked. The man who'd once carried me on his shoulders at county fairs. The man who'd chosen silence every single time it mattered. "You had 3 years," I said. 3 birthdays. 3 Christmases. 3 Thanksgivings after that first one. Not one message. Not one "Are you okay?" Not one attempt. You didn't think I'd come around. You thought I'd stay gone. And when I did, you were fine with it. Diane's hand flew to her mouth. "That's not fair." "It's exactly fair," Marcus said quietly, stepping half a step forward. His voice was calm, protective without being aggressive. "You made choices. Lena made hers. Guests were pretending not to watch now, but they were watching. A few phones were lowered. The photographer had discreetly moved closer, not to capture drama, but to document whatever this was becoming. Diane looked around, suddenly aware of the eyes. Her cheeks flushed deeper. "Can we talk somewhere private?" "Please, just 5 minutes." I considered it. For half a second. "No," I said. "There's nothing private left to say. Everything that needed saying, you had years to say. You chose not to. I'm choosing the same thing now." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. And maybe she was. The MC's voice cut through the moment, smooth, professional, giving us all an out. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll direct your attention to the dance floor, it's time for the bride and groom's first dance." Perfect timing. I turned to Marcus. He offered his hand without a word. I took it. We walked to the center of the floor as the band started the slow, acoustic version of the song we'd chosen. The one we'd listened to on repeat during late-night drives, when I was still learning how to believe I deserved this kind of love. As we swayed, I could feel eyes on us. Not just Diane and Robert's, everyone's, but the only ones that mattered were Marisol's, shining with pride from the head table, and Javier's, steady and warm. Halfway through the song, I glanced over Marcus's shoulder. Diane and Robert were still standing where we'd left them. She had her arms wrapped around herself. He was staring at the ground. Neither moved toward the exit. Neither moved toward us. They just watched the daughter they'd erased dance with the man who'd chosen her. Watched the family they'd never met surround her with love they'd never given. Watched what could have been theirs if they'd ever once shown up. When the song ended, applause rose again. Louder this time, warmer. Marcus kissed me softly, right there in front of everyone. Then the band shifted to something upbeat. People flooded the floor. Laughter returned. The moment dissolved into celebration the way weddings do. I didn't look back at the edge of the room again. Later, much later, after cake, after toasts, after Sophia fell, asleep on Carla's lap with frosting in her hair, the security guard approached one more time. They left about 20 minutes ago. Mrs. Morrison, quietly, didn't say anything. I nodded. Thank you. Marcus found me on the edge of the patio, looking out at the dark vineyard rows. You okay? He asked. I leaned into him. Yeah, I think I am. He kissed the top of my head. You were kind. Kinder than they deserved. I wasn't being kind, I said. I was being done. We stood there a while longer, listening to the music drift out from the barn, the laughter, the clink of glasses. 5 years earlier, I'd sat alone at a high-top table crying into cranberry sauce. Tonight, I stood in a wedding dress under string lights, surrounded by people who would fight to keep me if anyone ever tried to take me away again. And somewhere down the road, maybe tomorrow, maybe never, my biological parents would have to live with the knowledge that they'd lost the chance to be part of it. Not because I was cruel, but because they'd taught me how to survive without them. And I'd done more than survive. I'd thrived. The envelope sat on the kitchen island like it had its own gravity. Thick cream stock, my old last name written in that familiar looping cursive. I stared at it while the coffee maker gurgled. Marcus was still asleep. Jet lag from the short flight to the coast had hit him harder than me. I sliced it open with a butter knife. One sheet of paper, neat paragraphs. No perfume this time, just words. Dear Tori, I don't know if you'll read this. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But I had to try. Mom told me what happened at your wedding. She's devastated. Dad hasn't been the same since he came home. I think seeing how happy you are without us, broke something in him. I know we haven't always had the best relationship, but you have to understand. Mom and Dad were just trying to keep the peace. I never meant for you to feel pushed out. I was young, scared, pregnant a lot, dealing with my own stuff. I didn't realize how much it hurt you until it was too late. I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. Maybe not ever. But I am asking you to believe that I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not the kind of sorry that expects anything back. Just sorry. If you ever want to talk, even years from now, I'll listen. No excuses. No defensiveness. Just me listening to whatever you need to say. You looked beautiful in the pictures the cousin sent. You looked happy, like you finally found your place. I'm glad for that, even if I had nothing to do with it. Take care of yourself, Tori. You deserve every good thing. Victoria. I read it twice, then folded it carefully and set it aside. No tears, no rage, just a quiet, tired exhale. Marcus padded into the kitchen barefoot, hair messy, eyes still half closed. He saw the letter immediately. From her? I nodded. He poured coffee for both of us, slid mine across the island, then leaned against the counter opposite me. Want to tell me? I did, word for word. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. What are you feeling? He finally asked. I traced the edge of the paper with my thumb. Nothing big. No explosion. No sudden urge to call her. Just recognition. She's saying the words now because she saw the cost. Not because she woke up one day and realized I was hurting. Because the mirror got held up at the wedding and she didn't like the reflection. He nodded slowly. Do you believe her? I believe she's sorry now. I don't believe she would have been sorry if I'd stayed small and quiet and kept showing up anyway. That's the difference. Marcus reached across and covered my hand with his. What do you want to do with it? I looked at the letter, then at him, at the ring on my finger, at the new last name I carried like armor and warmth at the same time. I think I'm going to keep it, I said. Not to reread, not to torture myself, just as evidence, proof that I didn't imagine it, that the hurt was real and the silence was a choice. And even when they finally saw it, the timing was still about them. I slid the letter into the drawer with the takeout menus and spare keys, closed it, and then I'm going to let it stay there. He smiled, small, proud. Good. That afternoon we drove down the coast. Windows open. Music loud, no plan. Just road and salt air and the kind of quiet that only happens when two people don't need to fill every silence. Months passed in the easy rhythm of new marriage. Sunday brunches at the Reyes house became family dinner. Now, sometimes at our place, sometimes theirs. Sophia started kindergarten and insisted I come to her first parent-teacher conference because Aunt Lena knows how to draw the best unicorns. Carla laughed so hard she cried. Javier framed the unicorn drawing and hung it in the hallway next to our wedding photo. My freelance graphic design work picked up enough that I could finally turn down the clients who paid late and talked down to me. I started a small side project. Custom family tree illustrations for people building chosen families. Word spread quietly in online groups. Every commission felt like quiet revenge and quiet healing at the same time. I didn't hear from Victoria again, or my mother, or any of the cousins who'd sent those guilt texts. Aunt Patricia sent a Christmas card that first year. Simple. No pressure, just thinking of you. Love always. I sent one back. One evening, about 18 months after the wedding, Marisol and I were alone in her kitchen rolling dough for tamales. The house was full of noise. Grandkids running. Javier and Marcus arguing about the Mariners in the living room. She looked at me sideways while she worked. You ever think about reaching out? To any of them? I shook my head. Not really. I used to fantasize about the big reconciliation scene, the apologies, the tears, the movie ending. But the truth is, I already got the ending I needed. It just didn't include them. She smiled, soft and knowing. You got the beginning you needed, too. Right here. I looked around, at the flower on the counter, at the photos on the fridge, me and every new one, at the life I hadn't had to beg for. Yeah, I said. I did. Later that night, lying in bed with Marcus's arm around me, I realized something simple and enormous. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for apologies, not for permission, not for proof that I mattered. I had stopped waiting the day. I sat at that high-top table 5 years ago and let a stranger hand me a roll and a glass of wine. Everything since then had just been living. And for the first time, living didn't hurt. 5 years to the day after that rainy Thanksgiving in Seattle, I sat at the head of a long table in the Reyes backyard. The same folding tables had been dragged out. The same string lights hung overhead. But everything else had changed. Emily Grace Reyes, 6 months old. Chubby cheeks, dark curls already escaping. Her tiny knit hat was being passed from lap to lap like the most precious holiday decoration. Sophia, now 12 and still bossy in the sweetest way, was teaching her little cousins how to make napkin turkeys. Carla and Daniel were arguing, playfully, over who got the last slice of pecan pie. Javier was pretending not to notice, Richard sneaking a second helping of stuffing behind Marisol's back. Marisol noticed. She always noticed. She clapped her hands twice, sharp, loving, and the chatter quieted. Before we dig in, she said, raising her glass of sparkling cider, we need a toast. And I think the person who should give it is our girl. All eyes turned to me. I stood slowly, Emily cradled against my shoulder. She let out a tiny, sleepy sigh and nestled closer. Marcus reached over and squeezed my free hand under the table. Steady, warm, the same way he'd held it that first night we danced at our wedding. I looked around at these faces, every single one of them chosen. Every single one of them choosing me back, and felt the words rise without effort. 5 years ago tonight, I began. I was sitting alone at a high-top table in the anchor room, pushing cold mashed potatoes around a plate, trying not to cry in public. My biological family had told me, 3 days earlier, not to come home. My sister was pregnant. I was drama. My mother wanted peace. My father chose silence. Again, a few soft exhales around the table. They'd heard pieces of this story before, but never all at once like this. I thought that was it, that I was the problem. Too sensitive, too much, too difficult. I thought if I could just be smaller, quieter, more agreeable, maybe then I'd finally belong somewhere. I paused, looking down at Emily. Her tiny fist had curled around my necklace. Then a woman I'd never met, Marisol Reyes, leaned over from her big, loud laughing family table and said, "No one should eat alone on this day." She didn't ask questions. She didn't pity me. She just made room. Marisol's eyes were shining. Javier reached over and took her hand. That one act of kindness didn't fix everything overnight, I continued. But it cracked the door open. And once it was open, I walked through it. Sunday after Sunday, brunch after brunch, conversation after conversation. I learned what family could feel like when no one was keeping score. I looked at Richard next. When I asked if you and Marisol would adopt me, legally, officially, you didn't hesitate. You said you'd been waiting for me to be ready. That moment, I stopped being someone else's afterthought. I became someone's daughter, on paper, in court, in my heart. Richard wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. No shame, just love. Then Marcus asked me to marry him, back at the same restaurant where it all started. And when we planned the wedding, I got to write the words I'd never dreamed I'd write. Parents of the bride, Marisol and Javier Reyes. A ripple of soft laughter and sniffles. My biological parents showed up. Anyway, uninvited, they stood in the back and watched strangers hold the title they'd thrown away. My mother called it humiliating. My father finally said he was sorry, and for the first time, I didn't need those words to feel whole. I already was. I lifted my glass higher. So here's my toast, to family. Not the one we're born into if they refuse to see us. Not the one that demands we shrink to fit, but the one we find. The one that sees us crying over cold turkey and says, "Come sit with us." The one that opens doors, hearts, homes, and even court documents to make sure we know we belong. Glasses rose around the table. To the family we choose, I said. And the family that chooses us back, everyone echoed. Glasses clinked. Emily gurgled happily. Someone cheered. Richard definitely got that extra piece of pie this time. Later, after the dishes were done and the kids were asleep on couches and blankets, Marcus and I sat on the back steps with Emily between us and her carrier. The November sky was clear, stars sharp against the black. He slipped his arm around my shoulders. Do you ever think about them? Your bio family? Sometimes, I admitted. Late at night. I wonder if they've changed. If they ever really understood. If they regret it. Do you want to know? I shook my head. Not enough to open that door again. I spent 27 years waiting for them to choose me. I'm not spending the next 27 waiting for them to understand why I stopped waiting. He kissed my temple. You're happy. I'm so happy it almost scares me sometimes. Good, he whispered. You deserve to be scared happy. You earned it. I looked through the window at the warm glow inside. The Reyes house. My house, our house. Laughter still drifting out. Someone was playing soft music. Someone else was wrapping leftovers. 5 years earlier, I'd sat alone wondering if I'd ever belong anywhere. Tonight, I belonged everywhere that mattered. If you're watching this, if you've ever been told you're too much, too sensitive, always causing drama just for asking to be treated with basic respect, hear me. It was never you. You were never the problem. You were never too much. You were simply asking for the bare minimum in a family that refused to give even that. You have the right to walk away. You have the right to build something new. You have the right to be chosen, fully, freely, first. Family isn't DNA. It isn't obligation. It isn't people who share your last name but make you feel like an intruder in your own life. Family is the people who see you hurting and say, "Come here." There's room. I found mine. I hope, with everything in me, that you find yours too. You deserve to sit at a table where no one makes you feel like an empty chair would be better than you being in it. You deserve to be loved without conditions. You deserve to be home. Thank you for listening to my story, all 6 parts of it. If it resonated, if it hurt in a healing way, if it made you feel seen, please like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever had to choose yourself over the family you were born into? What did that look like for you? I read every single one. Until next time, keep choosing people who choose you back. You're worth it.